Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 17 of Biweeklycast, and the hosts are here. I'm Slava Rudenko.
I'm Dima Malenko.
And we have a guest.
Right.
Hey guys, I'm Slava Rudenko.
The more Slavas, the merrier, right?
Yeah. Especially with R at the beginning of the second name.
Yeah, that's so true story. We can probably get to that, but before we do that, we should introduce you, Slava, right? And you are currently a product manager at EPAM Systems, doing a whole bunch of interesting stuff in AI space and learning. And you also have like interesting things you do outside of that, because I met you, we get to meet at Aspen seminar couple years ago, right? And you also do have a great interest in psychology and sports and stuff like that. So would you mind maybe telling a bit about yourself and your interests?
Sure. First, I would like to say thank you guys for having me, and it was a big surprise because, we are in Kyiv here, it's war, and podcast, and I'm a creative person, so that made me feel more alive. Thank you for that. Generally speaking, I'm always told that I'm 32 and I'm in IT for 20 years already in business, like since 2010. I went through a whole bunch of positions from digital marketing and chief marketing officer, and then I switched to entrepreneurship, and in 2021, I guess, I decided to join EPAM as a product manager doing machine learning, and I wanted to get back more on software side than management. I don't like operations at all. And I'm 8 years in therapy, and right now as a client since 2014, and right now I'm studying for Gestalt therapy in Pogodin Academy. So I finished first stage and now applying for the second. I did Ocean Man. This is kind of it's like a run, triathlon, running, swimming, and cycling, I guess, but without cycling and running. You just swim for. I don't like sweating, so I like swimming. So my ocean one was 8 kilometers swim in Geneva, Lac Léman.
Slava, my swimming coach tells me that there are only two kinds of ocean men. The ones who say, when is the next one? And people who say, never again.
Oh. Yeah. I finished my career like several years ago swimming for long distances after that. That's definitely true. I'm a cross-continental swimmer also, so I've did 2 times swim Bosphorus in Istanbul. From interesting fact that when I was a teenager, I was in some kind of football fan stuff, which made me
like the hooligans.
Yeah. So that's made me a bit charismatic between IT guys.
Quite an exotic experience, especially considering our today's topic.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to mention that, because I think that's made me a bit resilient.
Before we jump to the resiliency, I think Dima has a follow-up from our previous episode, right?
Yes, I generally do. I think last time we were talking about the book Culture Map, right? Culture Map was the book that we were talking about.
I've
Not
listened.
the culture code.
I've listened that, and I thought, wow, I need to review everything what you've recorded. It was a really nice episode. Thank you for that.
All right, thanks. And one of the things we discussed there was that this kind of seemed paradox or like juxtaposition of US culture being so low context, but then being indirect on negative feedback scale. Like, and just this past week from random people around me, I heard reference to that idea twice. So like people suggested, you should check on difference between Europeans and Americans on how they deliver and expect to receive feedback, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
So is it Baader-Meinhof syndrome?
It may be a little bit of that. It may be just I paid more attention to this just having read the book, but nonetheless, it was an interesting coincidence.
Cool. But today we're going to talk about resilience, and probably, guys, you could explain why you picked this topic and why you think it's actual.
We can try. There is a little bit of story to that. When I invited Slava to talk to us, I think, Slava, I scared you a little bit, right? Because you thought that maybe we want to talk about learning and development and that kind of stuff, and you're not very keen on that idea. But then I think that the topic of resilience came from the idea. So you did a whole bunch of posts which are titled Happiness Challenge or Happy Challenge or something like that you started doing, sharing like your goals and ideas. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that, like for the personal happy state, I think. And they were so honest and interesting and open, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about and learn from you about your experience and how it's working. And this is how we came to the topic of resilience, which we still are all going through hard times, and we need, I don't know, like resources and energy to deal with that and continue to function. So it seems to be like an evergreen topic for people, especially for people connected to Ukraine.
Well, guys, just to double check, because I know we do have a definition in our notes, but with your own words, how do you understand the term resilience?
May I?
Sure.
Yeah. I was playing with ChatGPT yesterday, asking him what that he thinks is resilience, and he listed a bunch of different options, and I was thinking what actually fits to me for resilience, and I wanted to find something that resonates with my heart deeply, and it's a pillar for me, pillar for the hard times. This pillar helps me lose control and believe that life is generous to me, even in hard times. This is the opportunity for me to face, not control something that I cannot control, right? Because shit happens, and it will happen, and the tension I feel without resilience is huge. And when I have this resilience, this type of mentality, I feel like this is something I can handle. I can get stronger and make myself move forward.
Dima, would you offer your definition?
Well, I think I would also then opt for Slava's route of trying to explain this thing through feelings and emotions, or rather than maybe an academic type of a definition. I think to me, resilience has that bit of preserving internal integrity in multiple dimensions, like emotional integrity, like intellectual integrity, to be able to move forward through through hardships, so that when bad things happen to you or around you, you get this resilient core that maintains its integrity and enables you to go through life, something like that, like just a core that keeps its structure and shape.
Mm-hmm. Since you started working with metaphors, I would go for something like inner compass. But while I was thinking about it, I would say that that's a feature of a person that is kind of built in and exercised at different levels, like humor. There are people who say, I'm not humorous, but then in some certain situations, they can exercise humor a lot. I think that resilience is also embedded in most people, but at different situations, they exercise it on different occasions, in different ways. You can say that sometimes even sarcasm can be a part of resilience, because it could be a coping mechanism that helps you navigate through some challenges and get back to norm. But basically, the way I understand it, it's an ability of a person to get back to oneself when something has altered the course or impacted, changed. Like the war was, example, for Ukrainians, to see how we can find ourselves in these new conditions, among new stress factors, in very changeable situations, getting these grounds and foundations for ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like how most of the professionals explain that resilience is not only the way you cope, but how you strive in those situations. So you become the resilience is not something you just hide from the situation or you can laugh on that, but you become stronger and even closer to what you want to achieve in life.
Well, then, guys, would you rate your resilience rate on scale from 1 to 10, where 10 is amazingly resilient and 0 is like, what is resilience? I don't know this word. What do you think your resilience level is?
Oh,
That's like, listen to Slava, master of uncomfortable questions.
No, it's okay. Your first intuition answer would be 0. But 0 because every time I get into the new trouble and I think, wow, like this thing I will never survive. But at the end I see like, wow, how did that happen that I've survived and got so many things, so many people around me. And but looking back, I would say I'm pretty resilient, and it would be 8, I guess.
And, I actually agree with you, because before February 2022, I would rate myself 4, maybe 3,
Okay.
like on the lower scale of the spectrum. But now looking back at things we managed to do, despite all the factors, I do rate myself as an 8 as well.
Yeah. But the thing is, I have an interesting life, and I'm 32, and 2 times I were really close to death before war. And I moved through really hard times with oncology, and I fight COVID pretty hard. And that's why I was like, and I faced bankruptcy, talks trying to find me, and and war just, when I entered war, I thought that I really know everything about what is coping with hard times, and now I see, wow, it was so little I know, and my heart just blowing from news and death is, yeah. Well, I will talk just from this perspective of having this muscle, training the muscle of resilience that made a lot of value to me. Sorry, Dima. I just took the scene.
But it's difficult to be lost, and I guess in order to evaluate, I probably should ask, like, what does 0 and 10 mean on this scale?
0, like totally non-resilient. Like something happens and it changes your life drastically. You just get depressed and cry for the rest of your life. And 10, you just don't even notice any stress factors. Like, war? Excuse me, what kind of war? Oh, this one. Never mind.
I think I would put myself on like 6, 7 type of thing, because I feel like I do have certain personality traits plus some of the like tools in my tool belt to cope with stuff, but definitely not at the level to be at 100%. Most of all because I think that there are also personality traits that go against me being resilient. And I think it was interesting in how you both of you described this, that maybe before war you would give yourselves different score, and probably my thinking about myself, I would also say that yes, I maybe would have evaluated myself a little bit, even I would say higher than now, but the scale of events that's happening right now, I think, kind of changes the scale and expectations to how resilient one should be, right? Because like previously, like the worst thing that could happen were not as bad as the things that are actually happening now.
It's like get the Olympics for resilience from your local gym.
So guys, let's see if strategies that we discussed today can help Slava and me get to 9 and Dima get to strong 7 or maybe even 8.
Yeah, let's see. So Slava, would you mind telling us about that happy challenge?
Happiness challenge?
Or happiness challenge? How it works, or how it's supposed to work?
Yeah, I'm just trying to remind myself why I, in the first place, started to use this. I went back from a 2-week retreat where in Carpathian Mountains, and I was so fulfilled. I felt energy to live life not from the scarcity, not from the point when I survive, but I want to keep on thriving, and I want to achieve something. I felt this inner feeling of that I want something, and not I just wanted to fulfill it with action. And I definitely knew that the whole bunch of news and occasions will impact my feeling of moving to something, not from running from something, from danger, but move to some value. And I am using for 4 years, I guess, life balance circle, just to review my monthly my life.
It's like these scales with where you put some sports activities and stuff.
It's more like a life
circle.
Life circle, yeah, with the parts like career, finance, and you scale it from 0 to 10, how you satisfy with that. And I thought that each after this retreat, I had a chance to sit. I'm using Miro for that, and I think, guys, so I just I was able to write down I was really inspired, so I write down my mission at that time. So I rebuild it in terms of war. Expectations become lower, but more they ground to the important things. I was able to highlight my values and what I want to achieve in life, and I decided that I need to have something which I will refer to on a weekly basis, and first not on the monthly, because things are so fast and emotions so many of them that that's definitely going to throw me away from the past, and the weekly period seemed to me more effective for that. And the way I've done it before, just to plan and then just done, wasn't right at the time, because I was thinking of what I was more about handling not only my achievements like financials, but something inside me, which are values. If I'm living the value at the end of the week, I choose if I do a good job with people around me. So for this challenge, I took from Aladam. She's a coach, pretty famous in the United States and in the Russian-speaking and Ukrainian-speaking community. She's doing Y Combinator mentorship and stuff like that. So she shared that the happy person is the one who are able to achieve what they want in life, following their values, just not to give up on their personality. So there is this two parts, like what I've done, what I'm missing out, and how I live my values for this week. Because
Dima seems kind of more attentive, because probably he was reading about your happiness challenge for weeks. For people who don't know what it is about, like, what would it look like from the outside? Would you just write down some thoughts and reflections out? Would you plan, do, and then reflect? Like, how did it actually work on a weekly basis?
Yeah. For weekly basis, like, you have your monthly goals, right? So a monthly review for life balance, and I always pick 2 or 3 areas I want to improve, and just list the actual to-do list, what I want to do. For example, for my within the wars, my spiritual and emotion area was always struggling, so meditation and studying therapy was one of them, and that's why I just listed it. And every week I was supposed to do homework for my studying and stuff like that. So then at the end of the week I had my calendar scheduled for this happy challenge. At Sunday at the evening I was sitting down with my phone and just starting typing honestly what was done, what or my achievements, even those that weren't planned, because I'm grateful to myself what I've done. Then what I'm missing out actually, and I'm trying to close my eyes and don't see, hide from this. For example, from war or debt. And then I had this scale from 0 to 10 for each value. So I've marked each value with how I was thinking what actions supported my values and which one were getting back from my values. And scaling each value from 0 to 10, and then list what I've actually lived my week within 0 to 10, and explain why and what I'm going to do next, and share it on Facebook, because it's accountability for myself to do that. And maybe someone will be inspired with living with their values also, because for me it's like as Aspen, where we all met, something where it doesn't matter what you achieved, but the values matter most. So for me to build such a supporting group of people around me in Facebook with this inspiration would be also a development of resilience, actually.
And do you think the public nature of this challenge for you, at least the way you practice it, did it play a role in how successful or unsuccessful or useful or not useful it was for you. So I can say, like, from my perspective, I think I'm trying to do thing that is similar, and I think, Slava, we discussed this in previous episodes with like weekly reviews that I like, weekly reflection time that I have for myself. But I do that for myself, and the notes I put in my notebook, like theme journal, are only for myself. And you are doing this so very publicly. Does this, how would you say it works, the public nature of this activity?
Can you rephrase your question? Because I'm not
sure. If I understood Dima correctly, he asks, would it work if you didn't post? If you just did the same things without social aspect?
I definitely the person who, really fast inspired by something and really fast inspired with something else, I would say. so the first thing just dropped down. So this is kind of accountability for me. It's the same as with the sport and stuff like that. I lose in track I'm not disciplined at all. So that's kind of a discipline thing for me.
That's totally fine. I know many people who joined different sports activities back in 2018, 2019, but then when COVID struck, they gave up running and swimming because there were no clubs and there were no competitions, and the social aspect was gone, so the sports aspect was just destroyed.
Yeah, guys, like social responsibility and peer pressure, it's amazing, like what it's done. I'm a big fan of it, and when even talking about resilience and what actually is working, I would say all these challenges are nothing beside the supporting group you've built around you. And this is a hard thing to understand when you're in a shitty position and you didn't work with your network of supporting people. There is no silver bullet here. So you're in a needy position and you don't have people, you didn't build a supporting group. And unfortunately, you need to start it over. And if you want to make it strong, you would go and go out and ask for help with a high vulnerability level and low level of trust from another people because you didn't build it. And that's the thing. And I would say when you share something honestly, you build it. Even in the social media, you can build it. I don't have most of the people in my Facebook are people I know personally through some kind of a business or trainings and stuff like that. So I have a lot to say about this social structure, but yeah, the key point here, I'm totally agree with you, Slava. So it's like people are the core to my ability moving forward.
I think it's interesting, Slava, how you just described this thing. It started with words like peer pressure kind of does wonders to make us do things, but I have a sense that what you actually are describing is not about the pressure, but support, like peer support. To me, I would say to me, the peer, the idea of pressure of additional pressure in situations when I'm already kind of almost up to the line or very fatigued or low energy is not appealing at all. But the idea of getting peer support, which seems to me is what you're describing, would be so much more appealing, at least for me. And I think maybe we should start using the words peer support more than peer pressure.
I think it doesn't work only for peers. In my example, in February last year, I felt like physically really difficult. Like it was hard to get through these challenges without sports. Before that, I was working out at least 3 times a week. And then just things changed. And I just when I saw the notes for today's episode, you mentioned sports and physical activity as one of the topics. I decided to check when was the first time I texted my coach to come back to the training. And it was March 3rd. So it took me a week to start texting my coach, like, please, let's get back to the exercise. I couldn't exercise myself. Like, I just couldn't get myself to it. But on March 12th, I already pushed my coach to start Zooming me for the TRX training. And since March 12th until today, I keep working out at least twice a week. And without the trainer, I would never do that. The trainer is not a peer. It's not someone, but it is social commitment that I kind of forcefully got onto myself to keep this sports track running.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer for the Dima's argument for definitions. Like, pressure is also kind of support. It depends on your kind of need in support. So when you put when you send even invitation in Messenger for the podcast, it's also a pressure because it's socially expected from me to answer. And I would say, what is the pressure? It's just a thing that you feel obligated to naturally. You don't need to be I would say when you have a lack span of attention, like in a war, and you want to keep moving, I wouldn't say that in psychological terms that's bad because you're not choosing something, but when you have a lack of this ability to choose and this energy, sometimes a coach can pressure you with exact time when you need to be in the gym, or people who are, I would say, I know the cases when people trying to get through divorce and they're just postponing signing the divorce document, and they ask for pressure from their friends for that, to challenge them to do that, because someone needs a stick, someone needs carrots, and only the person knows what the best for what the kind of support will be for them. That's why I would say there's a different levels of what we are talking about.
Sure.
So the tools and the whole ability to support someone and respond, and especially it's important when you can hear and respond assertively on the need of support and ability of others. So if I need pressure and you think this is a bad for me, it's not ability when you're trying to to provide your type of support, that's kind of not working. That's not the support group. So support group should be also supporting your ways of supporting. So what needed at your side.
And I think that this is one of the reasons, like this whole idea that things work differently for all of us. I think this is why I value my weekly reflection times, and when I veer off them, I try to get myself back on track and spend time thinking about things that work for myself. Why do they work, and how can I get more of things that actually work for me on kind of behind me to help me move in the direction I want to move. And I think that to me, this was probably one of the most important learning of recent years on how to build this kind of resilience muscle, is to understand how I personally react or respond to situations and what helps me, and get more of those things under my tool belt to be able to pull them out when the circumstances would require that.
You know what the best magic from all of this, what you're saying, that you can go to people who know you and tell that you need support and you don't have tools right now and you want them to share it with you. So not always it's through through, meditation or reflection, but you can go to people and talk to them about what tools they can share with you, and that's the magic. For me, it's a new way, I guess, within the war to handle. I spend less time reflecting and more time in contact with other people, and in this vulnerable position when I don't know how to keep on track. When I say I don't know how to keep on track, but I really need that. I don't know how to put what tools to put, and those tools doesn't work for me at all. Sometimes just cry out loud with someone close helps, and then you see that the only thing was between you and what you're doing is that at this time you were needed not reflection, but a kind person behind you.
Yes, before we move to the next topics, I wanted to tackle one more aspect of this social impact, because we basically mentioned the supportive and kind influence of people, but communities do influence us in different ways. And in Slava's example, his Facebook bubble were people who were selected by being constructive, being positive, having some sort of relationship towards. But I see that, let's say, Ukrainian Facebook community on average exercises different approaches, and sometimes sharing some of your vulnerabilities can actually cause much more harm than bring you support from, and the pressure can be also of very different nature there.
Of course, yeah, you should be hygienic with people around. I would say everyone has this perfect, I would say, house chat, or how do you call it? When where your neighbors talk about stuff in your house. So that's the most toxic place in the world, I guess, where you can ask for support. And even there, 5 minutes ago, I've read in this chat that at night someone was partying, and another person just woke up and they said sorry, but it's 2 a.m. You woke me up. It's so loud. And this girl just said, so sorry, apologies, it's not going to happen next. And I wrote that...
And turned the music up.
No, they didn't. It's mostly it would be like that. It would be a lot of, talking. But she made a real clear statement that she thinks it was wrong, and they did mistake. And I just wrote that thank you. I thanked both of them for being constructive, and that's some kind of, you can keep on developing your hygiene with people. You can remove them, or you can support them in their support them being supportive and constructive in your field.
Just some things I noticed among my friends. Whenever someone who, for example, moved to a different country years before the war started, shared something vulnerable, and then people in the comment section were just leashing off, saying how dare you feeling unhappy in your Canada, or whatever the place is. Oh. And I think that there is a lot of trauma, especially in social media these days. And if we try finding resilience in others, these others should be really carefully picked. I know that some people use this Instagram close friends list for sharing right now. They don't share it for all friends, but they have a selected group of 10, 15, 20 people they trust. And if they want to share something nice or something sad, they can always go to this smaller circle of people and get their support there with less risk, I guess.
On contrary side, I will say that being resilient is actually really being okay with those people. I don't think the whole people, and I had a lot of different reactions on my sharing vulnerable things on social media. And when I got into therapy, I understood that distance is important, and being kind to yourself at first, and choose what you say and at what place. It's a better than trying, to convince people to be more kind to you and those times. Yeah. But I like sometimes to see who are actually toxic in my environment this way, and I just remove them. That's the way.
That's the tool.
Okay.
Yeah, just remove
So
people.
that will be the sign. If you remove us after this recording, we will know.
What happened to
how
like?
to
Yeah, you should be
act.
okay with all these kind of people. I'm okay when they're in ban.
Yeah, I just I just asked them just to change Bill. I tried to explain what I need at that time. What was my need was when I was sharing, and it's not something that they're providing. And ask them to change their behavior. And if it's not going to help, definitely to remove. I'm okay with that. For some time, I would say that that's going to be a huge lesson for them. I've faced myself different times when people removed myself from their lives for being rude, for being not supportive, and being not the person they were needed at that time. And at times it hurt my feelings, but that made me more okay, more attentive to people around me, and it's like a ability to, they've granted me ability to choose who I want to share things with and keep them near me.
Yeah, that's right, and I think like for myself, initially, at some point, I felt like because of this behavior and attitude, not only in social media but also in other circles as well, I started feeling very uncomfortable with sharing my real feelings. And now, more often than not, when people ask me how I'm doing, I think I kind of developed more functional answer rather than like being open with how I'm doing. Actually, as most of the time, I would say I have nothing to complain. Saying that, hey, maybe like I acknowledge that I'm probably in a better place than many other people, but also showing that, hey, I'm maybe probably not telling you the full story there, because it just didn't feel right or comfortable going deeper than that. Let's put it this way.
I have quite a mixed feeling about this thing, because on one hand, it feels really healthy because it's like a stoic exercise. Saying that when you look at the bigger picture, let's say the planetary size, and then you don't feel troubled about things that happen to you because on the global scale, the humanity is thriving and many things are different. And when you think globally, then your perspective changes. On the other hand, when people say, I have nothing to complain comparing to you guys or to some people who are like on the front line, or when we compare our lives, there's always someone who will suffer. There's always someone who will go through difficult experiences. And you do have the right to complain if you would like to complain sometimes. It's just picking the appropriate method and place for that, because ignoring your own emotions, like people who are frustrated by something or irritated by something, and part of the coping mechanism is actually to say it, because if you don't allow yourself to announce that you are irritated or pissed by someone's actions or attitude or something, you don't leave it through, and then it becomes trouble, and it's not a coping mechanism. Then it's like a bomb that just starts tickling, and then it's just a matter of time when we get more and more and more, and it becomes a real issue.
Yeah, that's true. It's you've mentioned things that I always say, that you shouldn't give up on yourself first. Because when you're when you hide your emotions, you give up on yourself first. You don't. But of course, Dima, that's a good point. What to share? I would I wouldn't say the level of my anxiety when someone asks me how I am, because the level is high, and I'm feeling powerless with circumstances that hurts my feelings, and I want to share that. But I don't know this person respond to that, so I can say that all good, thanks God, and all are safe, but I feel a bit frustrated, and if you want, if you want, we can talk about it, and then person can just choose not to go deeper into that.
I think that's kind of manipulative a bit, because
Okay.
in your perspective right now, it sounds like the person can actually refuse. But then there is this pressure that if you don't actually choose to talk about it, then something is not okay, because like if you disengage from such a conversation when a person shares with you,
Mm-hmm.
it can actually be insulting or offending for a person. Like, I gave you a chance to see me opening up and you didn't take it. We are not friends anymore.
I never said that we are not friends. I just
No,
ask
you
if the
wouldn't,
person.
but I can say that it can be used as manipulation.
As a definition is something that manipulation is something that I want from you, and I trying to get it without with like type of action which is not straightforward. I never want.
And asking you, like, would you like me to share it, without actually caring whether you would like me to share it, because just it's social obligation for us as friends to listen, and it's not okay to reject in such.
It's more
such
about your beliefs, not my wanting from you to listen. So you ask me how I am, and I actually sharing with you a tip of the iceberg, and ask you if you want to go deeper on that or not. And most people, you can choose what you want to go forward. And definitely my experience with people is that I believe that not all of them are ready to face the hard emotions most times, because they don't ready to connect with their own emotions, because they think if we will start talking about, for example, hopelessness at this situation and grief, they will just fall apart, and I support that. So I don't try to push at this.
I think one of the elements here is that how are you is considered both by Ukrainian and Western etiquette a small talk question. It's basically a prelude to a conversation, and such things, when people actually, like in almost any context of any other culture, when people say, "No, it's been really hard," it can be considered as oversharing at this stage in many cultures, not just people who suffered trauma or overall. This is not the right place for this answer at all. It probably should be like the 17th question in the conversation, after you've broken the ice, seen how things are reacting, like what has been happening, and then you feel intimate and trusting, and then you could actually talk about something like that. But oversharing from the second question with an unknown person.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking. So I don't go into deep details. Or I say I'm stressed right now. Would you mind if I will share? But I'm kind of resistant to this thing with cultural things and places. I'm more about the present moment and present person, and how do I connect with them. I really like that actually resilience is not only a muscle of the person, as it's also the muscle of society and the culture. So how society can go, there is a different resilience at this in this topic. So as me as a person, that tool works for me. So I don't know. When I share, I have friends from different countries, and I would say mostly people from abroad are more willing to listen than in Ukraine, even more close people. I don't know, my experience.
I think Slava, what you said, like the general idea of time dimension in this kind of interactions, I think is often important and often missed when we talk about them. Like you said, something that is a second question in a conversation can play out very different than 17th or 20th question in the conversation, and likewise the previous history of interaction between two people can also play a role, because the level of trust and kind of mutual respect, I don't know, mutual trust can be different, and because of that you can go different lengths about and different levels of openness with how you feel about stuff, and at least trust that other person to be open with you and tell that, hey, that may be a bit too much that I can handle at this moment, or say that, yes, like, tell me more, I'd love to offer you some support. And it depends on place and time when this happens. Would you agree?
Definitely. You should, like, my point is, you should be authentic with your emotions, with what you feel, and be, I don't know, so you need to trust people that they have their own mouth and words to reflect if it's something that they don't want to go further with. And I would say when we start on a work meeting and everyone asks how everything is going on, I can easily say that I'm really pissed off, and I had zero sleep because of air raids. So guys, like, that's my state for now. I don't trying to to explain the whole details, but definitely that makes the tone of the whole meeting more constructive, for example, for me, without so people trying to provide empathy to that, and just go straight to the business what they want without that helps me a lot.
Sounds like a good middle ground. And now, as our time ever so slowly keeps running out, and we are coming to a close, do you think it would be a good idea to maybe each of us share a tip or recommendation or anything, like to build this resiliency muscle? Things that you think worked for you.
For me, first of all, it would be the huge part in my resilience played my therapist. So I'm voting for everyone should visit the therapist when they have tough times and they feel they need support. The second thing is people and supporting surrounding. You can always test your friends and for this ability to listen and share their emotions, and be attentive to when you're vulnerable. Was a bit as I really like how Slava mentioned that it's always a way of getting to the place when you can do this, but like MVP, you can do a bit of sharing of something that when we met with another reaction, not supportive one, for example, you can just make a quick note for you that person right now is not capable to support you. Third thing is definitely sport. I would say especially something with long and monotonous actions, like running and swimming. For me, that made a lot of that made me feel much stronger physically, which I can use as a pillar when mentally goes nuts. And
good stuff. I like your product management approach with to relationship with MVPs and stuff like that. I hope that this this conversation will help all of us like build a little bit of that resilience muscle with the ideas and the experiences that we've shared. Thanks, Slava, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. That was really. I just felt, we can go farther and farther with you guys. Your voice, Dima, is always smoothing and so comforting. That was a bit of an experience, pleasant experience being here with you was in the tough times. So I would say your podcast keep resilience, provides necessary support. And Slava, thanks for challenging questions. I think you get more of them. I have a lot of more of them, and I wish you guys the best of what you're doing, and luck with all your ideas.
I would definitely like to keep this conversation going. So, Slava, wait for my invitation for a Kyiv coffee sometime.
Yeah. Slava and Slava, I would say.
Sounds good. So then, good weeks.
Yeah.
Good weeks.
Bye. Thank you, guys.